Welcome to the New York Harbor Middle School. We are the first public middle school in Red Hook, Brooklyn. We come from different neighborhoods across District 15. We love learning outdoors and doing projects that give us opportunities to advocate for our community.
Later today, we will be presenting to you our environmental justice field station project. But first, we would like to teach you what we have learned so that you understand why this project and work of environmental justice is important.
The question we will explore in this lesson is, why do we need environmental justice?
Take a look at these two street maps. Each circle represents a tree. What do you notice? You may notice that there are a lot more trees in Carroll Gardens than Red Hook.
This is a complete street tree density map of New York City. The darker the green, the more trees there are in that neighborhood. As you can see, the number of street trees is very different depending on what neighborhood you live in. Red Hook has a low street tree density compared to most other neighborhoods in our district.
Trees, plants, and green space increase a community's protection for environmental hazards such as extreme heat and flooding. Trees provide shade and cooling and absorb water, so cutting down trees does nothing good for our community.
Trees, plants, and green space also improve air quality and provide many other benefits, such as providing animal habitats and making a place more beautiful. The uneven distribution of trees across NYC is one example of why we need environmental justice in NYC.
Environmental justice is when people of all communities, meaning people of all different neighborhoods, races, incomes, and genders, are equally protected from environmental and climate hazards. Due to generations of racist policies in housing, healthcare, and education in our city and across the United States, we do not have environmental justice. We cannot achieve environmental justice without understanding our past and working together to build a better reality and future.
Now, let's dive a little bit into the past. This is a redlining map that helps explain why there are significantly more trees in some neighborhoods than others. Redlining was a policy from more than 80 years ago that drew red boundaries around neighborhoods where people of color, recent immigrants, and economically disadvantaged communities lived, labeling them as hazardous and driving down neighborhood values. Although redlining no longer exists in policy today, there is still a noticeable difference between redlined neighborhoods and neighborhoods that weren't. But still, the legacy of redlining remains strong.
Recent studies indicate that neighborhoods that were once redlined are very close to sea level, heavily paved, and deal with fewer trees and green space. These factors increase flooding risk and create higher average temperatures, both of which continue to worsen with climate change. Red Hook is a neighborhood that was redlined. To this very day, there are fewer trees and less green space, significant into flooding issues and poor air quality. You may have noticed construction on the street when you entered our school. That's because they are doing repairs to improve drainage on our block due to the flooding that happens often.
According to the New York City Panel on Climate Change, the average annual temperatures in New York City is projected to increase by 8.8 degrees by the 2080s. This might not sound like much, but every fraction of a degree of warming leads to more ice melts and sea level rise, warmer oceans, and stronger hurricanes, and the collapse of the ecosystem. Scientists also predict that the heat waves will triple by the 2080s, which is when we will be in the late 40s.
To make matters worse, large cities like NYC are most vulnerable to extreme heat because concrete and buildings absorb and retain much more heat than areas with more trees and green space. This phenomenon is known as the urban heat island effect.
In fact, extreme heat is the greatest environmental risk in our city. Extreme heat means that it's more than 90 degrees for more than 2 days in a row. Extreme heat causes more deaths than all natural disasters combined in New York City.
But extreme heat is not the only environmental problem in Red Hook. Red Hook is among the hardest hit neighborhoods during and after Hurricane Sandy.
Flooding remains a problem even during small rainfall events. To understand this, we have to go back in the past.
Red Hook is at a very low elevation. Before humans changed the land, Red Hook was actually a salt marsh teeming with life. And with red clay soil, this is where Red Hook gets its name.
The land that we now call Red Hook changed a lot after the arrival of the European colonists. The Lenni Lenape, who are native people who inhabited Red Hook for more than 7,000 years prior, had a very different relationship with the land and natural resources. In humanities, we learn that the Lenape did not see the land as something that could be bought, sold, or owned. They drew only the fish needed from the salt marshes, grew plants such as corn and beans, and made relatively small impact on the environment. After the colonists arrived, however, oysters, which had protected the shorelines, were quickly overfished, and the salt marshes that absorbed the daily tides were destroyed and replaced with concrete.
Now let's connect the change in land and shoreline with Hurricane Sandy. If you examine the original shoreline alongside the areas that flooded during Hurricane Sandy, it's no wonder why there was so much flooding in Red Hook. Much of this land was once a salt marsh that was supposed to be flooded with seawater. You build a neighborhood on top of it, then of course we are at risk at flooding.
All right, now you would think that Hurricane Sandy would lead us to plant more trees in Red Hook, but this is not what happened. More trees were cut down after Hurricane Sandy than ever before. To make way for repairs and backup generators, they also removed playgrounds and benches. Now there's nowhere for me or the community to play.
More than 450 trees have been cut down in Red Hook since Hurricane Sandy. This is a tree we saw being cut down on the way to a field trip on March 16th.
Now let's connect the environment with our health. The flooding from Hurricane Sandy worsened indoor mode in Red Hook. Indoor mode can trigger asthma and other respiratory problems. As was mentioned before, trees were cut down, but trees have the ability to improve air quality.
During this mission, we also learned that asthma does not affect all neighborhoods equally. The map on the left and the right might look alike, but they are from completely different sets of data. The map on the left shows the percentage of people living in poverty by the neighborhood. The map on the right shows the rate of children going to the emergency room due to asthma. As you can see, neighborhoods with more poverty have more children going to the hospital for asthma. This is no coincidence because the design of our environment directly impacts our health.
Our school and the Red Hook community are very close to the Brooklyn-Queens Expressway that puts tons of pollution in our air each day.
Scientists have found that young people who live and attend schools near major roadways and idling vehicles have higher rates of asthma and asthma symptoms.
In addition, new Amazon warehouses and old bus parking lots bring hundreds of trucks in and out of Red Hook each day, contributing to even more air pollution.
Red Hook Initiative surveyed residents who were impacted by indoor mold from Hurricane Sandy and published findings. This particular report led to many news stories that drew more attention to the issue. They are also monitoring air quality near the Amazon warehouses and throughout Red Hook.
This is a picture of us testing the air quality in different parts of Red Hook, including directly over the expressway. RHI inspired us to get our own air quality sensor. Next year, we will be working with RHI to contribute air quality data to citizen science to help advocate for a cleaner air quality in Red Hook. Now, let us explain to you the project you will be viewing today. The goal of our project was to redesign a shipping container to turn it into an environmental justice field station. So, what is an environmental justice field station? And why did we decide to use a shipping container? Well, Red Hook, Brooklyn, was once one of the country's largest industrial ports, and still has a major shipping container terminal. So there are lots of containers around.
Shipping containers are only used for 10 to 12 years before they must be retired from use on ships. Instead of letting them go to waste, why not turn them into something new? Shipping containers make great base structure to build from. Here you can see lots of different examples and designs we used as inspiration, including a couple of examples here from NYC.
One very important aspect of environmental justice is to bring people together in shared spaces to do research, to understand environmental issues and the strengths and needs of our community. That's where our field station comes in. We are Brooklyn's youngest green architects tasked with designing sustainable field stations and to do community science to advocate for our environmental justice. We learned and applied tons of science, technology, engineering, art, and mathematics to develop our scale models, budgets, and to determine how to power the field station in a way that causes the least harm to the environment.
If we want to see an end to environmental injustice, we must think, act, and design sustainably. As we design our shipping containers, we kept in mind these principles to guide our decision-making. As you view our projects, please use our sustainable design rubrics to provide us with feedback.
In order to come up with our final designs, we used the design process and tested everything from the type and surface area of insulation to the amount of electricity a certain area of solar panels could generate.
We worked with the Ready Center and real architects to get feedback on our indoor and outdoor designs. We even had the windows and doors of our scale models cut by a professional metal worker.
And we wrote about why we need environmental justice, so we can teach you about it today.
We all deserve to breathe clean air and to be protected from extreme heat and flooding, especially as our climate continues to change. Check out our projects to see how we intend to do this. Thank you for coming today, and we hope that you can help us advocate to make our field stations a reality. This is one way that you can help advocate for environmental justice in Red Hook.
Thank you for participating in our lesson today. As we transition into showcasing our final project we call Youth Action,
We ask you to think about helping our community
and our city to achieve environmental justice.
Bye.